Hi Peaches, it's Shaaba. Welcome back to my channel and thank you for clicking on another video. I'm doing something a little different for today's 1-800 drama episode. There is a theme for today and that is, should I be paying for that? I thought it might be a little bit relatable this January. A lot of people on the forum seem to be asking the question because it do be spenny out here, babe. It may be the new year, but we are still in a cost of living crisis and everyone can do with a cost saving trick or two, right? So just before we start, I wanted to thank today's video sponsor, Saily, who may also be able to help you save a penny or two. Thank you, Saily, for sponsoring today's video. Saily is an eSIM service app with plans in over 180 countries all around the world so that you're always staying connected. What on earth is an eSIM, Shaaba? An eSIM is like a physical SIM that you put in your phone, tablet, devices, but it just happens to be virtual. And why would I need one, Shaaba? Well, especially if you've got a holiday coming up, an eSIM could save you a lot of money. When I was first dating Jamie, that was such a long time ago, eSIMs didn't actually exist then. I went to the Netherlands with my family for like a weekend trip and I was messaging Jamie on Facebook, that's what you did back then, non-stop. I then came home to a £90 roaming internet bill that my broke student ass could not afford. Roaming charges can be pretty pricey, even if you pre-plan them, but with Saily you can install an eSIM so easily. It takes no time at all, like this, and with it you have access to super affordable local service rates for whatever country you're traveling to. Not only does it save you a little bit of money, it's also safer. People can't steal it because it's virtual. You don't have to worry about being scammed at airports or having super long airport queues. And Saily also has virtual location, web protection, and ad blocker features, which not only keeps you safe, but also ends up saving you more money because ads and malware eat up so much of your data without you even realizing it. It's also way better for the environment because you don't need to keep buying physical cards every time you go to a new country in order to get a better plan than your roaming rates. You just need to install the Saily eSIM once and you'll have access to all of these countries at a click of a button. You can have access to multiple SIMs on your phone at the same time, and it's also really reassuring because I don't know about you, but the spottiness of data roaming is not fun when you are lost in a foreign country and have no idea where you are. So connecting to local networks at super affordable rates, a no-brainer. You may find, even if you're not traveling, that using an eSIM deal works out cheaper than your domestic network plan, and you can even earn credit with friend referrals. So for safer, affordable connection no matter where you are, you can download the Saily app on your mobile. You can go and visit saily.com/Shaaba, and Peaches on this channel get an exclusive 15% discount on top of the already affordable rates by using my code Shaaba whenever you're ready on Saily. Feel free to save this video to your watch later so you can grab the code whenever you're ready to go on your next travels. For now, the Saily link is downstairs in the description box. Let's get on with the show. You're through to 1-800 Drama, the show where you share your biggest dilemmas and I help you navigate them. I'm Shaaba, and with your help,
and sometimes mine,
let's help people figure out if they are the drama, because sometimes you just need an outside perspective and we can all expand our own mindsets along the way. Are you ready to dive deep into the a-holes? Let's go. Alright, spending cost of living people who take the piss, let's see what we have here. Shaloop! Am I the drama for refusing to pay for my friend's kids as they refuse to accommodate my dog? I don't know why, but this is giving me like petty energy straight off the bat. I'm feeling kind of spicy today, so I'm here for it. I'm here for it, okay? I am a 35-year-old woman, says OP, and I've got a group of friends that I've known since uni. We've always been close, and despite all moving to different parts of the country, we make the efforts to have weekends away in an Airbnb a few times a year. Wow. I wish I was that organized. That's amazing. We move. Of the 6 of us, says OP, I am the only one without kids. I don't mind kids, I'm just not interested in having my own. And when we do our weekends, they often bring their kids, not their partners. It is just us and the kids. Interesting. That is really funny to me. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just something to note that the friends will all come with their kids despite the fact that they're not coming as families. Their partners are at home. And I'm assuming that the partners are also capable of taking care of the child whilst you have like this cool little friends outing, but no, you bring the kids with you. The nosiness in me and the stereotypes, I guess, of society definitely make me feel like this is all likely to be women in straight relationships. We always split the cost of the Airbnb equally and arrange a supermarket food delivery, which is also split 6 ways, despite the fact that the kids stuff is half the food bill. I'm not sure if that's a good idea. That might not be what the complaint is, but that's something that I would have a problem with if I was OP. OP says they are all fussy, so completely separate food is bought for them. Chicken nuggets, fish fingers, etc, etc. Oh, so the kids are all fussy compared to the adults. I'm gluten intolerant, says OP, so I need special food, but the group asked me not to add those to the order due to the expense. Oh, what? They don't seem to get that me paying for kids' food that I won't eat is the same as them paying for gluten-free food. No, wait, so why are you paying any of their food? Hang on, no, okay, wait. I'm sure there's still a lot of foods that you can all eat together. Like gluten is not in everything, right? Wait, what is gluten? What are you, gluten? Gluten is things like wheat, right? Bread, pasta, cake, but you can still eat eggs and fruit and veg and those things. So anything like non-processed, you can still share the cost of. I don't know how I feel about this. I think OP's being swindled here. I'm not gonna lie. We haven't even gotten to the question, but I'm feeling bad for OP. Let's read on. Also, as the childless one, I get the sofa bed, whilst the others get the big comfy bedrooms for them and their kids. It's just assumed that that's okay, and I never got consulted. 1 second. I think we've fairly established here that there's a lot of sort of inequality and unfairness that's going on, where OP is definitely drawn the shorter end of the stick, right? With the food, having to pay for the kids' food, having to pay for everyone else's food, and then also paying your gluten food on top when you are paying for food that you don't eat because you're paying for the kids' food. You don't have kids, so your non-existent kids are not chowing down and chowing into your wallet. You know what I mean? But also, you are paying equally for the Airbnb. What? Like, so you're paying the same amount as someone who gets a room to house them and their children, whereas you have a sofa bed. It's clearly unfair, and whilst I am partially feeling bad for OP, I'm also like, why the frick have you agreed to these terms in the first place? Why are you going along with that? The very first holiday should have been like, oh, well, unless we're gonna get a place where I can also have my own room, because you could just find a place with one more room, then like I will not pay the same amount as you guys. That seems fair. And they would be like, yeah, surely, or you just don't go. Is that just me? I'm feeling like maybe OP has also allowed themselves to be walked over a little bit. You're 35. You got 6 friends, you're all adults. You should be able to like have those discussions if you're feeling some kind of way. As you can tell, says OP, I find it annoying as it's never acknowledged that I get the short straw despite paying the same as them. However, I love spending time with them, so I don't say anything to avoid rocking the boat. There's rocking the boat, and then there's like having the boat propeller spin and splash you in the face, and everyone else is like, whilst you're like clearly not having a good time. Do you know what I mean? Like there's not rocking the boat and there's standing up for yourself. And I feel like maybe you're allowing yourself to be a rug that's like being trampled all over by your friends. Isn't that the saying? The rug, and then they're walking over the rug, and the rug that they trample the rug. Do you know what I'm trying to say? I'm interrupting a lot though. I'm sorry. Let's continue reading. That was, says OP, until recently when I got a dog. A woof. None of my friends or their kids have an issue with dogs, but they're also not big dog people either. For our next meetup, I asked if anyone would mind if I brought the dog, so I wouldn't have the expense of a dog sitter. I mean, to be fair, that sounds very fair because they've brought their kids so that they don't have the expense of a childminder. I don't think it's always appropriate to compare children to pets, but this definitely feels like a situation in which it's fair. I made it clear that I'd monitor her carefully. I'd go outside with her to clean up poop immediately, put her in her crate for sleep, bring a baby gate to keep her in a separate room from the kids, and bring all of her food. I would also take sole responsibility if any damage happened, but my friend said that they weren't comfortable with that. Okay, I completely get it, says OP. All right, I'm glad you can get it. I don't think I get it right now, mostly because like I'm loaded with so much unfairness and inequality that you seem to be experiencing, and you're like, okay. But I guess we don't know all of the nuances, so maybe if it's going to drastically reduce what kind of Airbnb you can get, because I'm saying that weird, aren't I? Airbnb you can get, because some of them aren't pet friendly. Maybe if a kid is like deathly scared of dogs or has had a bad experience, then I think I can get why you can get it. However, says OP, I said in that case that I would need to pay for a sitter or kennels, and therefore I think we need to revisit the way that we split the costs. Yes, OP, speaking up for yourself, I will just say one thing. I don't think the one correlates with the other. You're making it sound like, oh, because you're not allowing me to bring the dog, now we should revisit the costs. Whereas they're actually two separate things, right? The dog is the totally separate issue, and regardless of the dog, you should be readdressing the costs. If I'm making concessions to accommodate the kids, says OP, then I should pay a smaller portion of the Airbnb. Also, I said that I would not be paying for the portion of the food bill, which is for the children. Yes. Also nothing to do with the dog. But go you. That's even better. You should be able to stand up for yourself without an additional reason. I'll pay my equal share of the adult food, but no more. I would have actually taken that one step further and be like, I'll pay my equal share of the adult food minus the gluten-y things that you're buying, because who knows how much you're buying and how much of that you can eat. You know, if they're buying like super fancy biscuits and crackers and cake, and does wine have gluten in it? Does wine gluten? Wines with extra flavorings or additives may not be gluten-free. Well, there you go. Like there could be some like really expensive things, right, on that shop which you can't consume, so why should you be paying for it at all? Like, add it on there. Add it to your list of demands, OP. You deserve it. The friends have said that I'm being unreasonable, and they don't understand how I can claim that I'm getting the short straw with the room and food. They believe that I'm being petty because they said no to the dog. I don't think that I am. Okay, I will just say, whilst I don't think that you are being petty, I know I said at the beginning this sounds so petty, I actually don't see this as you being petty. I see this as you being like, you said no, you, and that's fine, but I am going to stand up for myself now because I'm not happy with the situation and I've not gotten my way too many times that it's led me to feel like I can now be open about it. That's what's happened, but this is the problem, right? Linking it to the dog thing, because now they're like, well, A plus B equals C, when really dog A has nothing to do with Bill's B. OP ends by saying, I'm just asking for them to make concessions for me the way that I have for them for many years. They say that I'm comparing my dog to their kids. I'm not. I mean, you kind of should. I'm pointing out that the money paid versus the resources being used is out of balance, and now that I have the dog, I can no longer support this. I don't think that I'm being unreasonable, and I'd like to hear what others think. So am I the drama? What do you think, Peaches? I think this is quite clear for me. This is not the drama, with maybe a tiny you are the drama in the way that you have communicated, and in some ways not communicated, because I feel like you've kind of dug yourself in a bit of a hole where the fact that you've not spoken out for yourself, despite the fact that it is clearly quite unfair, you've kind of set a precedent for that happening now. And so they're like, oh, sure, OP will be the one to take the sofa bed. Sure, OP will always pay for a portion of our crackers and gluten cheese. Just cheese out gluten. I don't know anymore. But you know, like our adult food that even though she can't consume it all, and also some of the kids' food, even though she doesn't eat the nuggies, it's not right. It's not right, but you've allowed it to happen. So now it's kind of understandable as to why they're like, oh, this is only happening because of the dog. I don't know why I've made them very posh British people. I'm sure that's not the case. But as a matter of principle, no, I really don't think you're the drama. I just think you need to speak up and not link the two together. Not the drama, but you really should have had a discussion with your friends about all of this before something like this could occur. I couldn't agree more. I wouldn't have even paid for my friend's children to visit a single time, let alone every year, barring emergencies or important stuff. That's crazy. I'm not sure why this commenter has assumed that it's like to visit me a single time. Like, you're all going away on a holiday somewhere. So the point remains, I do hear what you're saying, and you don't pay for your friends' kids. They pay for their kids. That's why they had kids. It's their responsibility, not yours. Or OP's actually responded and said it's one of those things that's just snuck in as the group grew. First it was just one kid, so the food bill was barely affected and the rooms were divided differently. Then another kid came along, which again wasn't a big deal, but before you know it, they're now outnumbering the adults. Okay, I can now see, and I give you a little bit more grace on the kids and the room front as to why you didn't say something. That does make sense, that it's like slowly crept, but it's good that you're talking about it now, and I'm glad you're putting your foot down, and I think you can still put your foot down even further by being like, no, this has nothing to do with the dog. I'm just reassessing my input. And I think you should explain that to your friends, right? Like, from when we started, there was only one little tiny baby Arabella, or whatever the kid's name is. Now there's 20 Darrens, and I'm not going to continue paying for 20 Darrens as chicken nuggets because it's more than one whatever baby name I just said that I've now already forgotten. Not the drama, but you should have just said that you'll buy your gluten-free food separately and wouldn't eat their food. I think this is difficult, especially because if you're going on a friend's holiday, like, some people are real foodies. Like, that food aspect is a big part of it, and despite my tremendously poor gluten-free knowledge, I'm so sorry, I am 100% certain that there'll be quite a lot of food items that you'll all be able to share that don't have gluten in. So I think that would have been like unnecessarily ostracizing yourself from what would have been fun social activity, right? So I don't particularly agree with that comment. Also, why keep going if you don't get a bed but pay the full amount? You must learn to advocate for yourself. I definitely agree with that part. And OP has responded again to say, I agree. I'm not the best at advocating for myself. It's quite a valuable life lesson, I think, as it's a classic example of me allowing something to fester, and then when I do speak, it's at the wrong time or too late, so it comes across in a way that I don't mean it to. And you know what, OP? This is fantastic reflection. I'm actually considering maybe... No, because I did do the you are the drama badge as well. I was gonna say, like, maybe this is an everybody sucks here moment, just because, like, you didn't communicate in a fantastic way, but I do think that would be too harsh. I give you a tiny you at the drama, and I also give you a tiny condolences badge, because you clearly mean well. Not the drama, you need better friends, says one commenter. I don't agree. I think this is like when people are like, oh, break up with them. This is a terrible thing for you, and it's like, well, you're just seeing one tiny aspect, one conversation of a friendship group that have gone on multiple holidays over multiple years, having a really good time, having so much history. If we just dumped all of our friends the first time we had a disagreement, we'd never have any friends. Do better, commenter. Cha. So with our theme, should I be paying for that? No, I don't think you should have, and I feel like you've kind of learned that lesson, and I'm really hoping that with some extra and honest and vulnerable communication and strong assertive communication, because you can be a queen that does both, your friends will understand what you're saying. And especially if it's one of those things that just crept up, right? Like, over the years, more and more kids joined, then I think it's really plausible that you've all just gone with routine, and they too haven't realized, like, taken a step back and gone, oh yeah, you know, now that we all have kids except from you, this does feel kind of unfair. Maybe we should readdress that. Best of luck, my love. I hope it goes well. drama. Alright, am I the drama for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding dress after she made fun of my body? Well, that doesn't sound very nice, does it? OP says, I'm a 21-year-old woman and I've always had a bit of a rocky relationship with my older sister who's 26. We're pretty different in a lot of ways. She's always been super into fashion and makeup whilst I'm more laid back and focus on school and work. How very you belong with me. Despite our differences, I thought we were at least civil until recently. Bow, bow, bow. My sister is getting married next year and she's been really exciting about finding the perfect wedding dress. Since she's trying to save money for other wedding costs, she asked if I'd help her pay for her dress as a, quote, sisterly gesture. That is really weird. I don't know why, I just feel like it's very bizarre. I would love to understand some more context about like what job you have and what job your sister has, but I just feel like the dynamics, the power dynamics, the age, the relationship, the life experience dynamics of an older sister who's 5 years older, so that's like quite a bit older, right? Like, I could never imagine asking my younger siblings to pay for such a big expense, but for my wedding. That doesn't feel right. It doesn't. And also, to be fair, regardless of like where you are in the hierarchy of age, just the fact that you're all siblings also feels like a really weird dynamic to be like, oh, can you pay for that? I think it's totally chill and actually really lovely, like incredibly sweet. If a sibling is just like, you know what, I would really love to pay for your veil. As a little gift from me to you, please let me look after this aspect of your wedding. And if it's coming from them, then you know that you can be like, that is so kind. Are you absolutely sure? Thank you so much. And you can do that knowing that they have offered something that they are clearly in a position to offer because they've offered it. But like wedding dresses can be spenny, dude. It could be a huge range, to be fair. It could be anything from like $10 to thousands of dollars. Oh no, I don't think that's very nice. OP continues, I recently got a decent paying job and was willing to help her out even though I thought it was a weird request. It is a weird request. I wouldn't have been happy with it. I can also understand why maybe you're wanting to like keep the peace. A once in a lifetime thing, so those thoughts. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, we were at a family gathering and I was wearing this dress that I felt really good in, but I'm not a size 2. Out of nowhere, my sister makes a snarky comment in front of everyone about how brave in bunnies I was for wearing something so tight in bunnies. Oh, that is rude. It's rude if it's coming from a weight situation. I think anybody wearing bodycon stuff is brave, like super tight things, just because I'm like, oh, I struggle to put a bra on in the morning. But obviously the way that I'm saying that would be the same if I was talking to a size 2 or a size 20 person. It's like, it's a bra, dude, it's a bra. This would definitely like have my red flag a mini waving, especially if I had some kind of feelings about my own weight. I would be waiting for the next comment. Oh no. I was embarrassed, says OP, but I didn't want to make a scene, so I let it slide. Later that night, she made another comment, this time in private, about how she would never wear something like that unless she lost weight. Well, there you have it. I got upset and I told her that what she said really hurt my feelings, but she brushed it off, saying that she was, in bunnies, just being honest. Ugh, your sister's gross. That's probably a little bit too spicy to say in something that we're trying to like evaluate, but like she just doesn't sound very nice. Opie finishes off by saying, now I don't feel like helping her out with the wedding dress anymore, and I told her this and she flipped out, calling me selfish and petty. Of course she would. She says that I am ruining her big day over a joke. A joke. Are you kidding me? Oh, I didn't mean to offend you. It's just a joke. So dumb. People who say this have no respect for the people that they are saying it to. It is not a joke if it's not funny. It's not a joke if you're just insulting someone and then later, because of the way someone reacts, you're like, I was joking. What is wrong with you? Grow the fuck up. Ugh. She says I'm ruining her big day over a joke and that it's not fair for me to back out when I already agreed to help. My parents are saying that I should just let it go and help her since, quote, that's what sisters do. Oh, just in the same way that sisters build really big self-esteem issues among their other sisters and give them complexes over things like their weight and their confidence over wearing clothes that they're perfectly entitled to wear regardless of their body size. But no, the older sister's being a little about it, like, just what this to do. No. Get in the bin, parents. You're being enablers, you are being unfair, and this has got me very mad. I feel like she's crossed a line. Am I the drama? No, OP. Oh my god, the biggest, not the drama badge. You're not the drama. Your sister, however, is an absolute asshole. It was weird of her to ask you to pay for her wedding dress in the first place, regardless of whether or not you got a really good, decent job. It was weird for her to comment like this, and then then not like acknowledge your feelings, and then to also emotionally manipulate you and be like, actually, I think you're selfish and I think you're petty and you should do this because now I'm not getting my way because you're not paying for my wedding dress, and that's why I'm letting you know that my comment was just a joke. You're a joke, sis. I've never been more assertive and more confident about a badge. And if anybody else disagrees with me on this forum, I got a fish and I'm ready to slap. Not the drama, says one commenter. Why is a 21-year-old paying for a wedding dress of a 26-year-old in the first place? Jokes at other people's expenses are not jokes. They are put downs, and if someone chooses to tear you down, you owe them nothing. The more that she whines and gets family to gang up on you, the more you should hold your ground and get really stubborn about your boundaries. I agree, and I just also want to say, like, I don't think that the accountability is only on the sister here. Again, sisters, if you're really family, this undying loyalty is ridiculous. You need to be able to call your loved ones out on their shitty behavior, because it's only by calling them out that you allow them to grow. If you're just like, oh, I have to keep quiet, I can't say anything because they're my loved ones, you are doing them a disservice. They are not having the opportunity to be better versions of themselves because you are not giving them that vulnerability to allow them to reflect. And they're like, I must be fine because none of my loved ones are calling me out on it. This is why we need to call our loved ones out. It is a sign of love. It is an act of love, not the drama. Okay, I can put my fish away. You're just matching her energy. Why would you respond with kindness when she's come to you with that judgmental, aggressive joke? She's an adult, you're an adult, you don't owe her a thing. It's true, and it sounds like you haven't even bought the dress yet, so it's clearly far enough in advance where she can figure her shit out without using your money. You've let her know that you'll not be funding her dress in good time, so she has plenty of time to recover and try to sucker somebody else into helping her or reducing her expectations. Obi should tell her sister that paying for the dress was only a joke. Yes, you should. Not the drama. You're 21 and you're helping to pay for the wedding dress of your older sister? I would be ashamed if I were her, letting your little sister make such a big expense. She sounds horrible. She does sound horrible. The only thing that I want to address in this comment, and it partially in what I've said as well, is that we're obviously making some assumptions here. It could be that OP's sister had a not so fantastic start in life or a different upbringing to OP. It could be that for very justifiable reasons, OP has got a lot more financial wealth than sister does. It could be that the perfect dress that she's dreaming of isn't actually that expensive. I doubt it, I'm not gonna lie, after seeing like the way that she's talking and the context of this post and the way that it's been phrased, but it really could be that it's not as expensive as whatever number this comment has in their mind, which could also be different to the number that I have in my mind. Who knows? But she definitely does sound horrible. Yeah. No one is entitled to your time or money. Your sister lost the plot when she repeatedly insulted you. She needs to learn that actions have a price, and in this case, her actions cost her my help with her dress. I totally agree with this. Freedom of speech is not freedom of consequence, and if you're gonna act like a dick, then I'm gonna treat you like one. Ooh, that annoyed me so much. My blood was boiling. Deep breath, everyone, deep breath. Ooh, drama. Alright, am I the drama for refusing to pay rent towards my boyfriend's mortgage if I move in with him? Interesting. Let's see. My boyfriend is a 33-year-old man and I am a 29-year-old woman. We have been dating for 3 years. He owns a house and he lives there by himself. I live in an apartment by myself. We've talked about moving in together as that's the logical next step in our relationship and we both want to do it. But I have some hang-ups related to moving into a house that I don't have any stake in. Wait, question. You've said that he owns a house. Does that mean that you don't own your apartment? Are you renting? Let's read on with that in mind. I am refusing, says OP, to pay any money that would go directly towards his mortgage. Interesting. I don't have any stake in the house, so why would I contribute to his mortgage payments? Said every tenant ever. I'm okay helping with utilities, groceries, household items, etc. So things that you're using basically, but paying his mortgage is a hard no for me. And I'm assuming you're not considering yourself as using the house in the same way that you're using utilities and groceries, because the mortgage is something that kind of contributes towards his equity. So in the long run, the portion of it that's not interest is capital that he gets to keep. So you're seeing this as I'm paying into his pocket. I need to let that marinate for a bit. Let's continue reading. I just don't think that it makes any sense for me to pay towards his mortgage when I would get nothing from that if we were to break up. His argument is that I would essentially be living with him for free and it would cause an uneven dynamic in our payment towards shared living expenses, which I kind of get, says OP. But at the same time, he is the one benefiting from paying down the mortgage and gaining equity, not me. He also argued that his mortgage is pretty much exactly what I was paying in rent, so by cutting that in half, I'm saving a lot of money on my living costs compared to living on my own rent. That means that you do not own the apartment that you're in, which I'm not gonna lie confuses me a little bit more because this whole thing of like, oh, I don't have a stake in the house, why why would I contribute towards his mortgage payments? Like, you're literally doing that for a landlord, for what I assume is a stranger. And yet you don't want to do that for your boyfriend of 3 years who you're wanting to progress with and therefore presumably see some kind of future with and want to support, with the idea, of course, that in time his assets would be shared assets that you also have. Questions. But about the boyfriend's point about halving the expenses, OP says, yes, that's nice too, but legally it's still not my house. Nor is the flat that you're in, babe. Yet you still pay towards someone else's mortgage. I told him, says OP, that the only way that I pay money for rent is if he signs a contract with me stating that any money that I pay towards his mortgage will be paid back to me by him in the event that we break up. I don't think that's very reasonable. Just for a second, let's try and work out what that would look like in real life. Say you guys are together for like 5 years. You're asking him to sign a document right now that says that half of his mortgage amount, whatever that might be, but it's going to be like multiple hundreds of dollars at the very minimum, right? We don't know how long he's had that house for. He is 33, which is like relatively kind of new on the statistic of the home ownership age ladder. I don't think it'd be unreasonable to assume that that mortgage on a whole house would be at least $1,000, and that's cheap, right? I think I'm going like super minimal here. So that's $500 on the minimum amount that seems just the tiniest bit reasonable. That's $500 a month that OP would be paying. In a year, that's $6,000. In 5 years, that's $30K. That's a lot of money. Say you guys break up for any other reason. You grow in different directions. Say OP cheats on him. And she is like, well, we have this little paper agreement and you broke up with me and now you owe me $30,000. Imagine what that would feel like. Who would sign such a thing? Why? Anyway, OP continues, it would also allow me protection from eviction and other basic tenant rights, similarly to a rental agreement. I actually don't think it would. It has been a long time since I've practiced law, and obviously there are different jurisdictions in the world, so not all laws are the same, but I don't think it would be legal for somebody who is living with someone else to draw up that kind of rental agreement. He's refusing to sign anything like that because in his words, I could break up with him for no reason and then take him to court for thousands of dollars, which I suppose is true, but I wouldn't just break up with him for no reason. Of course you wouldn't, OP. I wouldn't do that. I'm asking him to trust me. And yeah, you don't seem to be providing the same sense of trust. You're like, well, I don't want to be left high and dry in the case of a breakup. And he's like, well, trust me. And you're like, no. The whole situation is driving a wedge between us and he's pissed off at me for, in bunnies, being so difficult when all he thinks he's asking is that we split the living expenses 50-50 if we are to live together. To me, it's not that simple. When he is the one owning the house that we would then live in, if I were on the title, it would be a different story. But he's not willing to put me on the title because he has lived there for 7 years already. Okay, 7 years is a long time. If we think about that again in terms of our like £500 example, which is again so low, it'll definitely be more than that. But using those figures, we are talking about boyfriend putting aside minimum, have to really stress that, minimum $1,000 every single month. That's $12,000 a year over 7 years. What is 7 times 12? Brain, engage. That's $84,000. That's a lot of money, boo. So putting you on the title not only incurs thousands of pounds of legal costs and also potentially opens another can of worms, because it kind of sounds like maybe you wouldn't be happy with not going in half. It also means that again, in the case that you break up, you would be entitled to 50% of all of that funds he's put in beforehand for nothing. And sure, maybe that is an okay thing to do. Maybe a lot of couples would be willing to take that risk. I, being a little bit of commitment phobe, my gut's telling me you guys have been together for 3 years. Why bring property into it now? This is the first time that you'd be living together. That's quite like an early on relationship milestone. Would you really buy the house together for that? Like, no, it doesn't sound sensible. I feel like there are some really easy solutions here, but let's just continue reading. My lease at the apartment, says OP, is up in 2 months, and I know that I need to make a decision sooner rather than later. It doesn't help that my landlord is going to be increasing my rent, and similar apartments in our area are going for even more than I am currently paying. But I just don't feel right contributing money towards his mortgage. Again, every time I see this, I'm like, but you're contributing towards rent, which is someone else's mortgage. That's presumably all you've been doing because you're renting. Dude, like, I don't understand why it's a problem now. I also know that if I renew my lease, it's pretty much a dagger to our relationship, says OP, which I don't want because I do love him and I do see a future with him. I just want to make sure that I'm protected. Okay. And you know, for a second I was like, ooh, could that potentially be a little bit financially controlling? I don't think it is. It sounds like maybe you guys have been talking for a long time about living together. You're saying you want to do it. You're saying that you've had hang-ups. You're saying that it's a logical step in your relationship. You've been together for 3 years. And now with this causing a wedge, he's like, well, it becomes more more than just, are we living together? It's like, are you committed to this relationship? I can actually honestly really see that from his point of view, and therefore I don't see this as being financially controlling. I can tell my boyfriend's patience on this is wearing thin, and he's upset with me for digging my heels in on this. But for me, this is about protecting myself for the worst case scenario when he really isn't risking anything. And so am I the drama? Should I be paying for that? My gut is telling me that you're the drama. I'm gonna say that you are the drama here. Again, this could have been an everybody sucks here, because I do think that boyfriend is like this tiny asshole, in which case you are a tiny not the drama. But I'm not gonna say everybody sucks here, because I definitely think that you suck more. I feel like I'm being particularly spicy today, so maybe this isn't like coming out right. I honestly just can't get over the illogical reasoning of the fact that you need to live somewhere, and if you need to live somewhere, you gotta pay for that, and you're already paying for somebody else's mortgage. You're already paying in a way that you don't have a stake in the property for, which is like your prime argument here, right? Like, I don't want to do it because I don't want to pay for your mortgage. That's what you're doing, renting, babe. It's what you've always done. If you don't move in with him, it's what you're gonna do again, and it's gonna be double the amount, but actually more, because your apartment cost is going up. Like, sure, you could find a different apartment, but you also want to move in with your boyfriend. It isn't making sense to me. That's the biggest thing. I feel like the logical, sensible, and social norm in this situation would just be to pay the 50-50 expenses. As he is saying, you split the living expenses 50-50. That is just what you do. However, and this is where the tiny assholiness comes in from the boyfriend, I don't think he's listening to you when you're saying, hey, I have a concern. Whether that concern is really actually quite niche and seems to be coming from a different place, that, you know, I just feel maybe a therapist would be a great idea to like unpack this sense of inequality that you have in your mind. Perhaps that's coming from something that you've seen your parents do. Perhaps that's speaking to like a bigger insecurity that you have in your relationship, where you actually don't think that this is going to be a long-term thing. Whatever it might be, it's coming from somewhere. You're feeling unable to just be happy with the fact that you're going to continue paying rent in the same way that you do, but part of that is going to go to your partner, even though it's 50% of the cost, even though that's also potentially an asset that you, if this relationship goes well, which you are wanting it to, that would also then become your asset. Like, definitely unpack that, babe. Definitely unpack that. My point of saying all of this, though, is even though those feelings might not make sense to everyone, your feelings are still valid. You still feel some kind of way. You still feel scared and unprotected, and it does sound like your boyfriend is not listening to you and trying to come up with solutions to help you not feel protected. Whilst I don't think a rental agreement is a good idea, and I certainly don't think the idea of an agreement that you have suggested is a good idea at all, I do think that there is some kind of agreement that could be put in place, right, that would allow you that sense of security. Maybe in the sense of some form of deposit. Perhaps for the first month, if you feel like he's getting some equity and you need to like have a contingency plan for if you break up, you could not pay the rent or the 50% of the mortgage cost, however you want to phrase it, for the first month only. And that's something that you can put in your savings so that if you do break up, you have some kind of deposit to put down later. Perhaps you can have in writing that if you were to break up, your rights in terms of not being kicked out immediately and having like 30 days to find a place to live is something that you could also be entitled to and explore, assuming things are not really difficult, because obviously in a breakup, like, who would want to be with their ex living there for 30 days? But, you know, like, if needs must, I get it. Perhaps there can also be a discussion of, well, if I'm not contributing towards some of the costs that I get equity in because you get the mortgage and not me, then there are also some costs that I don't think I should have to pay for. For example, if something goes wrong with the building, you should be repairing that because it's you who has the equity in the property, not me. Just like in any other rental situation, right? You wouldn't pay for things like repairs of the building. It's kind of the cost benefit of paying the additional rent, but that is the point, right? Rent is typically so much more than a mortgage in order to cover those additional costs. Whereas here, you will be getting a much cheaper rate because you're paying 50% of a mortgage rate, not a rent price. I'm sure the rental price of this house would be significantly more than the mortgage, and if you wanted to pay 50% of that, like that rental price, to get that sort of treatment of like, oh, well, then I won't pay towards any of the building repairs, then that would just not be financially sensible to you. Does that make sense? It's making sense in my brain. I feel like sometimes when I talk about numbers, my brain goes way too fast. My mouth can't keep up. All of that to say that I do think this is a very tiny you are the drama point on the boyfriend and quite a big asshole point to you. I say that with love and with kindness because I don't think it's coming from like an assholey place. I don't think you're saying this to be greedy. I don't think you're saying this to be opportunistic and to like have a stake in his property. Though I'm not gonna lie, it does feel a little like, well, if I had some of the title, then maybe I would be willing to, you know, like, it's just not how it works, especially when you're only just living together. I feel like you have good intentions and I feel like this is coming from an insecurity, and I feel like you need need to work through that insecurity, not expect your boyfriend to compromise in ways that would not actually be a compromise because they would severely not benefit him. The idea of if you break up for whatever reason having to pay back goodness knows how many years of like your portion of the rent to you is just so ludicrous. I am so intrigued to see what other people say on this one. I don't know if everyone's going to agree. Or you are the drama. You clearly don't have any problem paying your landlord's mortgage and you got no stake in that. How is this any different? You live there, you can help pay for the expenses. And your expenses will be 50% because you're sharing them now. Oh, someone else has replied to this and said, there is a difference here. The landlord can't break up with her and leave her homeless without following a legal eviction process, which seems to be one of the concerns. But the answer to that isn't don't pay rent, it's put it in writing. I do agree with this. I really don't think you can become a legal tenant. You can't rent to your partner, your wife, the person that you're living with. It doesn't work that way. And you are kind of covered in common law in that sense too, right? If you are a partner and you've been living in this property for a really long time and paying towards the bills, say this happened for like 25 to 30 years, and then after that time you're still together and he's like, no, this is my house. And you're like, I call bullshit, sir. I've been paying so much towards this. The courts would definitely be on your side. Based on common law, they'd be saying, well, yes, you have essentially been paying the mortgage and therefore you are entitled to an amount of equity in the property. And maybe it's just not knowing these things and going in a little bit naive and with so much insecurity that is unresolved that OP is sounding a little bit greedy, I'm gonna say. With kindness. Someone else has picked up on it, so you could cheat on him and if he dumped you, he'd owe you money. LMAO, that's ridiculous. He should have dumped you on the spot. You're the drama. I don't think this requires somebody dumping you on the spot. It just means that you're not like seeing things from the same perspective, seeing things from his point of view, which is fine. That's why we have gorgeous forums like this and the ability to talk it through with other people, because that's how we can expand our own mindsets, right? And realize and be like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. Let's rethink that. Ooh, a soft you are the drama, because I understand the worry and equity and wanting to see some semblance of tenants' rights that you would get with a traditional rental agreement. However, the way that you work through that is to draw up an agreement about what happens in the event that you break up or fight, in which you get sufficient notice and perhaps a return of a security deposit or something. This person is in my brain. Ooh, there are sample agreements of this all over the internet, or you could ask a financial planner. You don't get to either not pay any rent or have him return thousands of dollars of rent back to you. I do agree that you've just gone like, well, I don't like this, so you should do this thing, which totally negates any responsibility from me. Silly. Oh, drama. All right, our final post today is from a fellow peach. Thank you so much, Dalama. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I think I'm not.
A few moments later.
The letter with the accent is a preposition in French, and it is found also within words, just like in the word voila.
Voila. Hey, so like Shaaba. So Delamar, Shaaba. I've lost it. I'm overthinking it now. Please let me know how to pronounce your identifier correctly. I'm sorry if I'm butchering it. Delamar asks, am I the drama for prioritizing my interests over babysitting traumatized kids after their family members passing? Ooh, this sounds like a big one. Let's see if we can help Delamar out. I am a 27-year-old woman. I've recently had a family member pass away. I'm really sorry to hear that, my sweet. This family member has left behind a husband who's 64 years old and 2 kids who are both 13. The husband recently approached me asking if I'd be available for childcare whilst he works night shift. I said that I was more than happy to watch the children, but I need clarification on how long and what he expects out of me. For example, is it cleaning, cooking, taking the kids to events, etc.? And he stated that he wanted me to spend the night at his house for 5 days a week, dropping the kids off at school in the morning, picking them up in the afternoon when he couldn't, and cooking dinner. Whew, hang on, let's read on. I told him this seems kind of excessive, especially since I have a child of my own and I take care of my 2 disabled parents whilst also working 2 jobs. Oh, OP, you have your plate full, babe. I asked him if he had planned on compensating me in any way so that I could quit a job and be more present for childcare, and he stated that he would pay me $30 for some gas a week. They live 30 to 45 minutes away from me in a mountain area, and so $30 would not cover gas for a week. Would I be the drama if I didn't watch these children and tell him to look at other options? Ooh, no, I don't think you will be the drama. I feel like this is quite a quick badge to give because I just don't see how this is feasible. You can't be the drama for not being able to do something that you like literally can't do. You have children, you have your parents as additional dependents, you have 2 jobs. I cannot even begin to imagine how tricky it must be to lose a partner and I assume have like the financial burden of both. I don't know how this works in terms of things like life insurance and if you have any. It also depends on like who this family member is, right? I feel like there are a lot of questions here. Is there life insurance to help you with some of those costs? Why is husband needing to do some of those night shifts? Are there other people that can help, that he can like share the load with, to be like, hey, are you able to come for one day, perhaps on a weekend, if that's when you're free and not doing shifts? There are so many questions. And I think one of my biggest questions here is, who is this family member? Like, if it is an uncle in like the traditional way, you know, or a cousin who's maybe a bit more removed, that's very different to a brother. Don't think it can be a parent based on how this is written, but that proximity really adds to the context as to whether you would be seen as the drama here or not. Because if this person has no one else and you guys are super close, you're like the closest family member ever, then maybe there would be more of a need to try and make this work in some way. So maybe this badge was a little premature and perhaps it should be a need more information here. But like we see on a number of posts, I feel like this is a situation where the badge is nowhere near as important as what happens next. The advice on how to proceed. And in this situation, I'm really manifesting that you and this family member are able to sit down and have a really honest discussion about what could work, about who else could help, about creating like a team, you know, like a little crew, to be like, hey, this person is hurting and we are all here to help. It's going to be really tricky with things like schooling, but it might be that until husband's able to find a different kind of job that better suits a routine, maybe the kids need to come out of school for a little while and live with you and your kid, to give that parent a week, 2 weeks to find a way to integrate a new routine. It sounds really hard though, sweet. My sympathies to you. I just don't feel like I have the experience to provide anything more nuanced. However, Peaches, Delamar has not posted this publicly. This has come to this podcast specifically, so I would so appreciate it if we could all help Delamar out with some advice. If you have any experience, if you have any helpful tips, please pop your little juicy butts downstairs and help Delamar out in the comments. Community is always a wonderful thing. Best of luck, Delamar. Alright, Peaches, thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. What do we think of the theme? Did we like it? Is this something we should do again? Let me know. For my soon-to-be traveling Peaches, don't forget to look at Saley if you're interested in super affordable eSIM plans and that exclusive discount code. More details can be found downstairs in the description box. Please do give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you'd like to see more, or if you're listening to this on a podcast platform, remember that you can rate each individual episode as well as the podcast overall. It really truly helps us out. For now, I will love you and leave you. Be kind and have a great day. Bye. I forgot my bean. I said 1 second and I forgot my bean. I remember it now.
Saddle up, I wanna let you freak show. Yeah, they're trying to tame the power of the freak show.